Story 1. Zero etiquette when eating. Honestly, it was a little horrifying watching him eat. Using your sleeve as a napkin and being over the age of 5 is unacceptable. Story 2. Functional illiteracy. Deciphering his texts felt like solving a cryptic crossword. If you cannot write in your native language, I do not have a high opinion of you. Story 3. She had the same name as an ex who was very horrible. I ended up refusing to date any girl with that name or a similar name. Story 4. He was tall and seemed to think I should be worshipping him because of his height. I do not care about height, so I declined. He became nasty immediately, so I avoided trouble. Story 5. Not so much petty as having standards when I was young. A guy came over to me at a diner while I was with a male friend. He said, "Hello there," as he leaned his elbow on the counter. I looked at him, then looked back down. He was clueless about my reaction. The guy left. My friend asked, "Why did you do that?" I replied, "He had a black eye and the rest of his face was all beat up. Why would I want to show interest in a guy who gets into fistfights? Hi, Mom. This is my loser boyfriend." Story 6. I mentioned on our first date that my necklace was given to me by my best friend, and that when someone I care about gives me jewelry, I almost never take it off. On the second date, I was given the ugliest dollar store plastic ring, which was easily an inch large. It looked like plastic dress jewelry that little kids use for dress-up, but giant. The worst part was that the only non-plastic part was made of a metal to which I am allergic, and they knew this. It was so ugly, so soon, so cheap, literally $1, and it quickly shattered my rose-colored glasses. Story 7. Discussed severe hemorrhoid issues during the first 10 minutes of the meeting. She ordered hot wings. Story 8. I visited a city where I used to live and met with an old friend at his place for supper. His wife's sister joined us. The sister sat unreasonably close to me throughout supper. She didn't stop talking to me the entire time and wouldn't give me a break. Every bite she took, she clapped her fork against her teeth, then bit down on it and pulled it out of her mouth, dragging it across her teeth. Each bite sounded like two glasses clinking together, followed by the drawing of a sword from a metal scabbard, and then she spoke to me while chewing. I heard that the two girls decided I must be gay because I declined. Story 9. I knew she was really into Burning Man. I eventually gave in and went on a date with her. She talked about Burning Man the entire time. I was so bored. She was also unemployed despite having a Master of Business Administration from a big-name school. It was a strange demographic to be obsessed with it. Story 10. Not sure about petty, but we were at a festival and when I went to the portable toilet, I heard a scuffling on the door. Could have been anything. Then the next time it happened again, so I opened it quickly and nearly knocked him over. He was right up against the door listening. He said he was doing it to see if I was okay. He then admitted that it was a kink thing, which I said was fine but not for me, and to let the girl know in the future. Story 11. She shared a name with my little sister. My little boy would absolutely not stand at attention for that. Story 12. He said he could not understand the appeal of reading books and had never read a novel outside of the school curriculum. Story 13. She received a full softball scholarship to a community college, but said she did not read any of her textbooks. She thought her professors would pass her because she was an athlete. She added that the Bible is the only book you need. Story 14. I really tried. But when most text responses were wow, oh, cool, or okay, I couldn't continue. I have known this guy since 7th grade. Plus, he has poor oral hygiene and lives in his parents' 3-bedroom house with his parents, brother's wife, and their 3 children. He also sent me over 60 selfies on Snapchat in 3 months, all making the same face. Story 15. It was after Mass, and I had had enough of being out in public for the day. She seemed very nice, but I was just not in the mood. I think she avoided a difficult situation, to be honest. Story 16. A few minutes before she started talking to me, I heard her laughing at a joke made at someone else's expense. A girl from that group had gone to the bathroom, and someone made a joke about how she only had breasts because she was chubby. The girl who was coming on to me found that hilarious. I did not. Story 17. She could not stop talking about her acting ambitions. Okay, cool, maybe you do something about it. Apart from being rejected from acting school, nothing happened. It was all in her head. Story 18. She used, for I could instead of, so that I could. I saved all year so that I could go on vacation. Story 19. My date ordered liver and onions on the first date. I tried not to be petty and went on a second date, where he ordered a tuna melt. I decided not to continue after that. Story 20. They did not know how to drive. Where I live, there is very limited public transportation. To me, being in your mid-30s and not knowing how to drive demonstrates dependence and immaturity. They had no excuse for it and no disabilities. I do not want to be burdened with driving them around everywhere. Additionally, lacking a license seriously limits your employment opportunities where I live. What a turn-off. Story 21. We were at a party and someone made a joke about Superman's friend, Jimmy Olsen. She didn't understand and looked confused and annoyed, so I started to explain it to her. She cut me off by saying, "Oh, you know I don't like classic literature." She thought Jimmy Olsen was a character from Dickens or something. I broke up with her the next day. To be fair, it wasn't just because of that. That was the last straw. It had been clear for a while that we didn't have much in common and probably wouldn't last long together. She didn't read newspapers or books. If something was happening in the world that didn't involve her job in public relations or reality television, she was probably unaware of it. She was a nice person, though. Story 22. I was 17 and worked part-time in a supermarket. A colleague said her younger sister liked me. She was nice, but she was only 14. I let her down gently. When friends asked why, I said it was because she likes Shawadi. They probably thought I was joking. Story 23. He kept quoting Adam Sandler movies, followed by, "That's from the movie? Isn't that funny?" at the end of every sentence. But the thing is, he kept quoting them completely wrong or attributing them to the wrong movie. If you're going to use Adam Sandler movies to impress me, stop messing it up. He was also convinced that The Longest Yard and The Waterboy were the same movie. I wish I could have enjoyed it, but he was very certain and cruel about his version of reality. Story 24. He pronounced salmon with the L. I could not unhear it. Every dinner would have been a cringe attack waiting to happen. Story 25. She did not believe in evolution or science in general, honestly. I cannot build a life with someone like that. Story 26. Their profession is either teacher or nurse. Sadly, they tend to be martyrs for their profession and burn themselves out, which is unfortunate because they often have the biggest hearts. Story 27. When I asked him who his celebrity crush was, he said, Courtney Love. It really annoyed me that out of all celebrities, that was the one he immediately thought of. He also told me he is allergic to cats. I have lived with cats my whole life. Story 28. I have turned down dates simply because I was too lazy to shower, get ready, put on perfume, go out, and chat to try to connect. Staying home playing Assassin's Creed, drinking Coca-Cola, and eating Cheetos seemed like the safe choice. Story 29. My mom did not like his first name because he was named after a planet. He is happily married now, and I am so happy for him. He was not my type either, but he is a very good person to be honest. Story 30. I once rejected a man because he ate a muffin with a fork and knife, cutting it into tiny bites as if it were a steak. I could not unsee it. Story 31. Crooked teeth are not a big problem, but crooked teeth covered in yellow plaque are a serious issue. Story 32. She was very unattractive. My brother had just left her at a party, and she was looking for revenge. However, she was too unattractive even for my impaired judgment. Story 33. I am married and have been married, but some guy hit on me in a store. He fist bumped me, and his hands were like sandpaper. He and lotion do not know each other. I was so disgusted that this was the first time I considered being rude to a guy. I ended up holding in my laughter because he lied about where he worked. I only know this because my husband works in corporate for the company he mentioned, and that was how my husband and I met. The company has changed its name 3 times and has not had the name he said in 10 years. The position he claimed to hold does not exist. He made it sound more elaborate than it was. He essentially said he was a sanitation engineer instead of a garbage man. This was not his exact claim. It was basically the lowest position in the company, but he phrased it as though he oversaw more than he did. It was a complete mess, and he really picked the worst possible person to tell that lie to. However, his rough hands stopped everything before his lie did. Story 34. I was going to a dance with a girl that I liked. I thought she was pretty, but then at soccer practice, my teammates said she had uneven breasts. Obviously, that was the end of that. I am not proud of myself. Story 35. I was introduced to this girl, fabulously attractive. I asked her out for a drink, and then she invited me back to her house. We did a little cuddling on the couch, and then we went through to her bedroom. Far too many soft toys and dolls. I bailed. Story 36. Their breath smelled. It was not necessarily bad, but there was something about it that I did not like. It happened twice. Story 37. Daughter of one of my mother's co-workers. I had heard far too often about the problems this girl was causing her parents, and then suddenly it was strongly suggested that I go out with her. No, I'm not going to be the one to try to get her on the right path. While she always seemed nice to me, I also got the vibe that something was not quite right about her. Turns out I was right. As an adult, she has gone through boyfriends and engagements like machine gun ammo and even had a couple of spontaneous marriages annulled. I think I dodged one there. Story 38. He wore a Green Bay Packers leather jacket to a nice restaurant for dinner. It reminded me of Putty's 8-ball jacket. This was 30 years ago. I have matured. Story 39. He said hello. I absolutely hate it when men use a dating application and that is how they try to start a conversation. Make an effort. Whenever someone did that, I either never answered or gave the same energy back. As you can imagine, the conversations never went anywhere when I put in the same effort as Mr. Hello. Story 40. They did not want to dance with me when I wore heels because I was a few inches taller. Good riddance. Story 41. The man would not show any photos on his dating profile, which was the first warning sign. The second warning sign was that he told me his ex stabbed him. The third warning sign was that he sent me photos of himself naked, bragging that he enjoyed being an exhibitionist. He became angry when I asked him why he sent explicit pictures. That was very unpleasant. Story 42. He wanted to talk on the phone first to confirm I was real, which was totally valid, and he had the most awful laugh. I couldn't get off the phone fast enough. I thought my ears were going to start bleeding. I'm so ridiculous. Story 43. My dad liked the man. No, sorry, abusive person. I guess I chose incorrectly and promptly ended the relationship. I got back with the one my dad disliked. Story 44. I refused a date with a man who was really cute and funny, but he worked a lot. He was a mail carrier and had a part-time job at a liquor store as well. He was divorced with children. He was really sweet when he invited me to Shakespeare in the park. The reason I turned him down, which was petty, was because I was in my early 20s and didn't want to deal with a man who had baggage on top of working all the time. I like a lot of attention, and I knew he couldn't give me that. Story 45. An attractive redhead and her 2 friends in Myrtle Beach for spring break. After making out in the elevator, I saw her 2 friends were being rude to my friend. I dropped her off at her room and left her there. It really upset me the way they acted towards him, and the urge to walk away was overwhelming. Story 46. I once stopped seeing someone because she had a blocked nose. When we were intimate, she said, "Spank me," in the most nasally voice, and it turned me off her entirely. Story 47. He came on too strong, demanding attention and acceptance of his very strong romantic feelings. We never went on a date, just talked. I saw him a couple of years later. He had his cute wife and looked right through me. Good for him. I hope it worked out and he got to live out his grand romantic notions. Story 48. I was not interested, but when he told me he thought that dentists were a scam, it both explained his teeth and grossed me out even more. Story 49. He became very clingy after I agreed to go out with him. I thought it was just a friendly outing until he kept talking about healing me from my ex, whom I still miss, and how he would give me so much love so I would be good for him. It honestly gave me the creeps. Story 50. They do not have a job or a driver's license. They are not going to do anything about it except make it your problem. Story 51. Well, I have never been approached, but the pettiest reason I would reject someone is if they only listen to modern rap. Even then, I am not sure. Story 52. Someone said, I can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and that's all I need as far as math is concerned. He then said he was proud he didn't understand algebra. What was I supposed to do, applaud? Could you imagine someone saying, I can read at a 6th grade level, and that's all I need as far as English is concerned. I'm proud that I can't write a term paper or discuss literature. It didn't help that I was a math tutor at the time. Instant turnoff. Story 53. He wrote a cheesy song about Joey Buttafogo that received some airplay and brought it for me to listen to. Gleb. Story 54. He chewed with his mouth open, and I swear I could hear every wet, smacking echo in my bones. I just could not do it. I would rather be single than haunted by that sound. His voice was wrong. That might sound petty, but I need to be able to close my eyes and melt when someone speaks to me. If I cannot imagine your voice in the dark, in the right kind of whisper, what is the point? Story 55. The first words out of her mouth were, Hi, darling. For her defense, she looked like Indian, as from India, but please do not call me darling unless we are engaged. Story 56. She wore a jumpsuit. They do not even match, and I strongly believe they look ridiculous. Just wear a dress or pants. Do not try to combine both into something that fails at being either. Story 57. I own 2 cats. No, I do not hate cats. I am extremely allergic. Cat people do not realize how bad cats smell and how bad the people smell just from living with them. To me, the person would have been like a walking, talking bag of unpleasant odor. Story 58. Coffee date. She bragged about how she always likes to taste test her partner's meals in restaurants, and it was non-negotiable. I snatched her frappuccino, drank it in one gulp, stood up at the table and said, Everything is negotiable, and negotiations have ended. I picked up my coffee and walked out. I grew so much respect for myself that day. No one is messing with my meal. Story 59. Had a date, and while ordering pizza, she said no sauce because she is allergic to tomatoes. I said, Wow, that sucks. No Sunday pasta dinner for you. She replied, No, I can. I use ketchup. I said, Excuse me. Walked over, paid the check, and left. Story 60. Surrogate is like an alien. You swallow some bullets and chase that with some dirty tampons. Obviously, I look better than you after the limescale anthrax powder. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.